it's the T-Rock 100. Welcome back to more of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Last time, we defeated the Team Star bases. We had a few heart-to-hearts with a couple of professors. And I have to say, with some of those things that I've said and done from before, I have nothing left to live for! Aw, I wanted there to be like a dramatic entrance for me on that one, but oh well. This time, we have made a return to Area 0 for the second time. We can now come here freely as whatever we wish. And this is where things are going to get interesting. Why? Because, well, we have a big nugget, 3 of them. And what are our last one? Something that is unknown to us. We have 9 more Pokemon to collect to complete the national, or to complete the PARADOJA Pokedex. This is what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be going after only a handful of them left. More specifically, I think 5 more of these. But don't worry, all this will make sense. So while we're kind of going through all this, because we now have access to pretty much all the Paradox Pokemon that can only be found down here in Area 0, this is what we're going to be going for today. So this means we have 12 new Pokemon for us to talk about. 6 from the past, 6 from the future. So, let's get to it. Starting things off from the Paradox Pokemon from the past. Screamtail. A billion-year-old Jigglypuff who looks like they just enough of one hit to have everything its way. Before I kind of go any further, Screamtails, along with the rest of the Paradox Pokemon from the past, minus Koraidon, will be coming with a signature ability known as a Photosynthesis. We've seen this ability from before when we were talking about her for the Raging Tusk, but now we can talk a little bit more about it. When exposed to intense sunlight, the most proficient stats in it will be boosted, and it will vary depending on the situation that you're in. This is a very interesting case study for Pokemon such as the Screamtail. Which is actually kind of funny because I have in my notes saying that I accidentally put a Screamfail. Okay, that's pretty funny. But picking ourselves up though. This thing is actually kind of lame. I say that it's kind of lame for a few reasons. Number one is that it's mainly meant to be used as a defensive, well, it's more like a double wall and actually kind of fast. In fact, what kind of a Pokemon has such a great defense and special defense, but is also one of the fastest that you'll see anywhere? I never really understood it. It has some great choices of moves and leveling up, but with both space special attack and attack stat being 65, I'm sorry, but I find that to be kind of disappointing. And also, why do these Pokemon not have any signature moves? They could have benefited from those nicely. What the hell? But, okay. In all seriousness, I actually have a bit of a soft spot on here for Screamtail because I actually kind of like it. How it reminds me of that one episode from the original series on how we have to deal with like an ancient Nintendo-looking Jigglypuff against an ancient Gengar and just sang everyone to death with his harsh singing voice. But in all seriousness, though, if you want one, you might as well just use it for your defensive purposes. And that dual combination of Berry Psychic, not bad to say the least. Next up, Brute Bonnet. Can I just ask, what the hell is this thing? Like, is it trying to look at it like it's in a problem? Like the I can't really think of the movie at the moment, but this thing kind of reminds me of a combination of Old Greg and a mushroom. But honestly, with the combination of that and it being a grass dark type, it's actually not that bad of a typing. I honestly think that this is a Pokemon that could work so well, especially since it has a good amount of resistances and even has a good number of moves to deal out. And of course, photosynthesis is great for this particular Pokemon. Being a great offensive user and actually kind of balanced out everywhere else, you can find almost next to no flaws with this thing, with the exception of it being one of the slowest and also one of the worst with special offense. The only real other thing that I would say to really watch out for is that if you really want one, they're going to be a little bit hard to find, especially since you have to find them in one of the underdepths. And they can be rare to come by, but if you can get by all that, great new Pokemon to have, and it definitely would make it even Cacturn proud. You gotta at least have some sort of successor. Sort of. Next up, Flutter Mane. A ghost fairy type that makes it no longer become a fairy type in the present day. If you say so. It's literally the same stats and well, I wouldn't say literally the same stat, but same type of distribution as that we would say from Miss Magius. Only except it's more of the ancient ways. It's meant to, just to go with our present use of the Mischievous line, to be more of the special offense and special defense and pretty good amount of speed. Has some very good moves and that could benefit as well, like a Shadow Ball and Dazzling Gleam. Pretty much anything that could benefit with this kind of Pokemon's type well. And, well, unfortunately, this thing doesn't have Levitate for the ability, so don't think that you can get away with it if you can get yourself without any immunity to ground. Not much else that really needs to be said about Flutter Mane, but it is one of the absolute best Pokemon to use in double battles, especially since that I know some very good moves and that can complement it well in battle. Just be mindful that even though it is a dual Ghost or Fairy type, it does hold a good amount of weaknesses and that can definitely get around its types. That being defense. And also, how is it that if it's an ancient Pokemon, it's practically worse than Miss Magius, even though their stats are almost completely identical? I guess it's definitely going through the ancient ways and just not adapting it to what we see in the future, I guess. But, yeah, whatever. Next up is Slitherwing, and oh boy! This is actually a Pokemon that I have a bigger soft spot for, and for good reasons. A bug fighting type that is very misleading from its appearance, and this is actually what makes some Paradox in a Pokemon very special. Their appearance and their typing, and we can assume that they are very misleading. It's not a part fire type, but it's a bug fighting type. A very nice combination of typings that very few Pokemon ever have. Of course, Heracross is a good choice to have, but I consider this one to be its competition. I'm just saying. Kind of picking ourselves up though. It has a bundle of good moves and that it can learn through leveling up, and knows some very nice moves that their TMs. And the only real big thing to really be careful with are flying, psychic, and heck, ironically, fire moves. To think that the one set of ancient Pokemon will become one of the best in Atlas and Moth that have deity gods of them all. And it just, I see that as it's superior. Which is really strange because sometimes I always saw the ancient Pokemon like these have an advantage over the others because that they're powerful and they can be a lot more durable, but for Slitherwing, not always the case. But don't worry, there are ways of making this thing better. You just gotta do a little bit of some digging around. Next up is probably one of the more unusual Pokemon, to say the least. Sandy Shocks. Electric ground type that has no ways of showing off any electromagnetic waves. Well, I guess the guy has to learn to move somehow. This is a very strange Pokemon, and actually one of the harder Pokemon to find in Scarlet. But don't be fooled by that type. Having immunity of electric, which is great. Also having almost one of the best resistances, even as a dual type, and that's not as a part steel type. But the fact that it's even faster than some of the other electric types that we see in the game, you could really do wonders with this thing. If you really want this thing to be good, of course, Electric Terrain is going to be great. Thunderbolt is also a good choice to have. Earthquake as well. This is one of the best anti-electric and ground type Pokemon that you'll find kind of mixed into one, if you know how to use it. Plus, has great ways of counteracting some of its other weaknesses as well. The only real big thing to really be careful with is that I consider Sandy Shocks to not only be a hard Pokemon to find, but definitely hard to fully understand its true potential. So I suggested that you figure out how to use it properly before taking it even into casual matches. If you can get around all that, Sandy Shocks is great. It's just hard to find, especially for that in Scarlet. And last of the Paradox and from the past in Scarlet, Roaring Moon. A Dragon Dark type that's not even a flying type. I feel like there's some irony that should be said about that, but I choose not to question any of that. But that doesn't mean that this thing is bad. In fact, I actually consider this to be a great use of a Pokemon that people often keep forgetting that it is not a part flying type, and it's one of those that people like to try to exploit. Roaring Moon, if you can take a closer look at its appearance, is actually a resemblance to Mega Salamence that we see here in today's line. Only a hell of a lot better. If you really want to use it as this Pokemon, it's hard to find, but I consider this to be one of the absolute best Pokemon that we would see from the past. It's one of the best physical and offensive users on the moment. In fact, it even kind of reminds me a little bit of Ho-Oh in a way. Being more on the physically offense and more on the special defensive side of all things, which is kind of strange. Just don't go around and using this thing for any special offensive uses. Use this thing as a physical sweeper and you'll be fine. In fact, if you really want this thing to be good, Dragon Claw leveling up. Let's see here. Crunch leveling up. There's so many good choices to have with this thing. And if you really want this thing to be good, have the Quark Charm to be used in official tournaments. Assuming if this thing is allowed to be used in tournaments. If it's not, then it's tournament banned, then don't take no words for that. But find any quick way of using that photosynthesis ability, and you'll do great. The only real other big thing to be careful with is that, unlike its flying counterpart, this thing actually holds a little bit more weaknesses in it than that. And that's something that you'll definitely want to take it into consideration for how to use it. Having a major quad weakness into Berry, and even a weakness into Fighting, and even Bug types. That's definitely something that you want to take into consideration when you use this in battle. Just be careful how you use it. It's hard to find, but holy crap, is it good. Now let's talk about the Paradox Pokemon from the future. And let me tell you, most of these are pretty much upgrades and improvements in what we see today. Let's start off with the obvious one. Iron Bundle. An upgraded Delibird that doesn't suck ass. It's no longer an empty Pokeball. It's a fully filled Ultra Ball. Being one of the best special sweepers that you'll find in the game, and having a very nice type that only ever resists its two types of water and ice. It kind of goes without saying that this thing is trying to be its best, but man, does it know how to deal a lot of damage in on itself. But oh boy, you got to deal with a lot of things in the meantime before you do anything else. Maybe one of the best special sweepers in the game, but it's also considered to be one of the more challenging ones to deal with. You're relying on TMs if you want to have this to be a pretty decent special user. If you truly want one hit to be good, you'd be surprised at what you can combine throughout his movesets. And just make sure that you have ways using that Quark Drive to your good use, and you have anything that can help out with some of the moves that I know that have some pretty pitiful accuracies. It'll prove to be of some good use for you. All around, Iron Bundle is a very much needed upgrade from Delibird. And it's definitely something that is worth the look. Next up is Iron Hands. I consider this one to be a fan favorite from Terra Ray battles and even in certain double battles. Having a very nice combination of fighting and electric type, a type that's not very often seen. It's great. In fact, what really makes this thing so dangerous, belly drum and pretty much close out combat combination. I consider that to be the fighting hitting force of a nuclear warhead. It's a dangerous combination of belly drum, which maxes out your attack stat, but in terms and that you lose half of your HP. But if you use this thing in the correct way, this thing having such great resistances and even ways of dealing with its weaknesses, as I'm probably repeating myself on that, but the point is, this is a very powerful Pokemon that is great, that a lot of people have been using for great usage, especially in Terra Ray battles and when they just don't want to get the job done. This upgraded version of Hariyama is beautiful, and it definitely should not go away anytime soon. Next up is Iron Jugulus. I feel like this is one of those rare exceptions where we see a Pokemon that's meant to be an upgrade, but it ended up getting a bit of a downgrade instead. The Hydreigon that we see no longer is that of a Dark Dragon type, it's a Dark Flying type. A disappointment hinted if you ask me. Kind of picking ourselves up though. When it lacks in a pretty bad defense, it definitely makes it up for pretty much an overwhelming power, and even makes it everyone else just don't want to cry. No, I'm not kidding. Look at his movesets. It's impressive. The only real big thing to really be careful with is that, just like when I talked about with Roaring Moon, this is one of those types that everyone keeps forgetting, and it's not a dragon type. I really, really wish that it was better than one would think. But once again, this is a Pokemon that I feel like just got a major downgrade, but there is a few positives. It no longer has a quad weakness to Fairy. It has pretty much the same type of movesets that Hydreigon has, if not with an addition of moves that you'll see as it is. But it's also rather quick, and in time later it becomes one of the best of the dark and flying type Pokemon that you'll find in the game. All around, great Pokemon, but it definitely has its flaws. Next up, Iron Moth. This is once again a Pokemon case scenario that I think it is often overlooked because its typing is not the same as you would think. What I mean is that while it is a fire type, it is not a bug type. Instead, it's a part poison type, and one of the absolute best special offensive sweepers in the game. In fact, once again, I feel like this is a Pokemon that should have gotten a signature move, but I feel like it could have done a little bit more even without it. With such great moves and that it knows through leveling up and through TMs, and with that hand into Quark Drive in it that it has, this thing is a monster in on itself. Just be mindful that it doesn't hold a major weakness on ground, and it's sadly one of those case scenarios of if it gets hit with a really nice physical move, it's going down in one hit. I hate to say it, but I consider Iron Moth to be one of the most powerful Pokemon, but also one of the major weakness. One of the biggest weaknesses on them all. If you just make sure that this thing doesn't have any physical offensive moves, but I only ever recommend using any physical moves if you really wanted it to be more on the tactical side. Just kind of pick your poison, or I guess in this case, infrared poison, and you'll be just fine afterwards. Next up, Iron Thorn! So how many variations of Mecha Head Tyranitar have we seen already? Well, I consider this one to be the superior, not counting the ones that's towering over the buildings like we saw from Black and White 2. This is a Pokemon that I really think it works great if it actually remained as a rock and ground type instead. Basically what I mean is that I think that this is a Pokemon that has such a great choices, just unlike what Larvitar Pupitar had, but instead of getting a rock and electric type, has a major weakness to ground, and it's basically similar to that to our today's Tyranitar, and maybe a bit more of a Juggernaut, as I usually like to call her Tyranitar, but sadly, with that being a part electric type, kind of hinders it pretty badly. That does not mean that it's useless. What I'm saying is that it's slow, and any good powerful ground type moves on this thing and it's gonna go down. That's why I suggest think well how you're gonna use a Quark Drive and be ready to deal with any kind of disasters that you'll be coming. If you plan on using this for whatever reason, there will be a couple of bosses and they'll be coming later on in the DLC that you want to steer clear of, and they are not exactly happy campers. Oh, you'll see. And finally, I present probably one of the most badass and probably one of the most mixed usage of any Paradox Pokemon that we have seen thus far, and a lot of people would agree with me on this. Iron Valiant. And what's strange is that according to a certain documentation that I was doing research upon, they call it an experimentation gone wrong. This fairy fighting type, once again, is a Pokemon that I wish it had a signature move, but unfortunately, it isn't not the case. Just why? Why is it that we have to deal with all these Paradox Pokemon, and the only real signature thing that they have is their abilities? But I digress. Of course, I haven't really used that correctly, but I don't care. Iron Valiant, like I said, is probably one of the most badass and probably one of the most powerful Paradox Pokemon that you can find. It has some of the best and the mixed sweeping skills that you'll find, but just like with other powerful mixed sweepers, if it's a swing and a miss, isn't likely to go down after one good powerful hit. I only ever recommend you use this if you really just like how you use it, but what really makes this thing stand out of pretty much all the other Paradox Pokemon is that this is the lone Paradox Pokemon, like I mentioned before, that is a combination of two Pokemon, Gardevoir and Gallade. But if you look a little bit closer, it's actually more of a resemblance to that to their Mega forms. So, let me get this straight. An experimentation that's gone wrong, and they managed to find the DNA of the Pokemon that were still in their Mega forms? I guess that would make sense, especially since these are mad scientists we're talking about here. But, all around, this biomechanical monster is definitely one to take into consideration if you plan on using it for any good purpose. And I consider this to be one of the most powerful one of them all. Just remember of its weaknesses. Remember that it's not all powerful because of those lackluster defense and special defense. But Spirit Break, Secret Sword. In fact, if I even remember her correctly, I think it even can learn Drain Punch. Just look at the moves that it knows, and it can be yours however you wish. Alright! So we're now back here at this point. But there's another good reason why I came here. Check it out! I am going to save really quick. And I'm just going to make sure that everything works just as fine as it is. And I don't want anything to go wrong. I'll be right back. And I'm back. Okay. So, when you are ready, talk to it. It's our reimaginable within the ferocious Pokemon that was retrieved from the earlier point of the time machine where Koraidon and Miraidon was forced to retreat from. We've already been over this Pokemon, but we now have a chance of going ahead and catching it for our team if we so wish. If this was Scarlet, this would be Koraidon, level 72, fighting Dragon type, Oracle Compulse for its signature ability. Its Terra type would be fighting. Giga Impact, Bulk Up, Collision Course, Flamethrower. Here in Violet, it would be Miraidon, level 72. I used the wrong ball right there, crap. Electric Dragon type, Hardened Engine for its signature ability, with its Terra type being Electric, Hyper Beam, Charge, Electro Drift, Power Gem. No need to beat around the bush on this one. This was tough. And yet, curiously, Pokemon such as this, I only ever suggest that you use it if you want to use it for competitive play. And this is actually what I consider to be one of the most pointless of Pokemon to go after and to use for yourself. Because you already have Miraidon or Koraidon on your party since like the beginning of the game. And yet, here it is, giving you a second one if you wish. Just... what? I really think that this is a Pokemon that we really never really needed. But it's here if you want it. But I guess you can find some good usage if you wanted to have a more of an offensive usage in it for these guys. And you just don't want to find a piece of with your own Koraidon and Miraidon. Yes, yes, yes. Do I recommend that you use a Master Ball on this? No. I don't recommend that you use a Master Ball. Because this thing is actually a little bit easier to catch than you were thinking. Oh, God. What the heck am I worried about? Almost had it too. Oh, come on! You know, it's a good thing that I have my own iron treads with me. And come on! And also, ha ha ha! You can't hit your signature move on me because I'm a part ground type. So how about that? In fact, what's interesting is that Iron Treads is the lone future Paradox Pokemon that actually works well with its appearance of its type. It is a Steel Ground type. Something that I feel like is often overlooked in this matter. Yeah, something that I feel like is often overlooked. But it definitely is something worth taking into consideration of. And also, I'm really glad that there's no force animation for these things, because otherwise I would have fallen off of the edge and I would have died. Oh, come on! It's been so many moves! So many turns! Okay, now you're just messing with me. Yes, yes, yes. Charge your own butt up, I guess. You know what? I'm gonna be stupid on this. We use a nest ball. Okay, I'm actually surprised it shook. Uh-oh. Let's see here. Luxury ball, go! At least if we're seeing something that works. Oh, God! We'll go for a regular Pokeball, I guess. Just to be on the fun side, I guess. This was worth a try. At least I'm finally dealing with a legendary Pokemon that actually can put up a challenge. Because in my past playthrough of certain Let's Plays with legendary Pokemon, they've been kind of pathetic. Oh, God. Come on! What did I do to deserve this? Is this karma for me not using the quick ball in the first turn? What? Critical catch with a dive ball? What? And also, that's not how reflection works. We have Miraidon in its ultimate mode. So anyway, this seems to be the Iron Serpent mentioned in an old book. The Iron Serpent is said to have turned the land to ash with its lightning. Something you actually might want to remember. Iron Serpent. No one truly knows about why that happens, but if I had to take a wild guess as to why there was an interaction with the two Miraidons, is that they are now truly fighting over territory for its own trainer, which would normally be the case, but our Miraidon, now going to be the one that defeated the hostile one, is now dominant. We can come back in here, but there's no point for anything to do anything else except for lying on this bed. And unfortunately... Oh. Wait, what? I just assumed we didn't need to come here anymore because the time machine is now useless. But... yeah. Just look at this place. You can't run Maridon in here for some reason. But yeah, I didn't know we can come back in here. It's really... now we've really gotten a chance to really see the place. It really kind of goes to show here for how much this place really can affect the impact of life itself. In fact, I actually have a bit of something that I need to talk about. As we're kind of making our way back, maybe finding any other Titan Pokemon, but not Titan, any Paradox Pokemon that I've missed. This is something that I've actually been wanting to ask for a while. Because in Scarlet, we are retrieving Pokemon here from the past. If we have taken something from the past, wouldn't this technically mean that we may be affecting the way how things operate in the present day? I know this is probably something that we really shouldn't be asking, but when you kind of think about it a bit, we could potentially be ruining aspects of what's happening in the present by potentially wiping out a Pokemon's ancestor. I know this is probably something that one really should not be talking about with the whole quantum physics thing and all that, but I actually have a bit of another theory. The reason why I think nothing seems to be happening in the present day is because this time machine does not actually travel to the actual past, but instead we're going into another universe. This is like one of those multiverse theories. And the androids that are for Sada and Toro being flung into the past and future are just going to a completely different universe that's parallel to this world. Like I said, I know it's kind of untheoretical here, really, but I guess it would probably make a little bit more sense if we were to take things from the future and bring it into the past. But a trade-off for this is that we want to potentially be altering the future, and that would also greatly affect our timeline as well. But I still kind of stand by that. I think that we're more focusing on the multiverse rather than our actual timeline. And I actually realized that the only real Pokemon of the Paradox that I'm missing is Iron Thorn. They are hard to find. And I mean, like, they're like one of the hardest Pokemon to find. Iron Valiant and Roaring Moon, well, I think mainly Iron Valiant, can be found in a special cave just outside of the research station number 2. And if you've been kind of paying attention to how it was in the top right corner, you will probably see me already catching an Iron Valiant. Let's see here. I don't want to be here for too long, though. Uh-oh. So I think probably the last thing that I'll do for this location is see if I can at least try to find an Iron Thorn. I think they can you found easier from inside the cave? Because iron tridents and certain other Pokemon can be found in there as well, exclusively. Actually, what's in here? A lot of Palmos in here. There's a Venomoth. There is no iron thorns that can be found out here. Worst case scenario is that I'll probably just find it off screen on my own time. But maybe if I can see if I can try to find one by trying to make my way back to the surface. Fleshlinger. Right through here. Not this one. This one. Whoa! Girafferic, hi, how you doing? But yeah. Through here. And this only happens after you completed your first visit here in Area 0. And this is for where you'll be able to find Iron Valiant. This one should be around here somewhere. Oop. Nope, I don't want that. They will take a while for them to respawn, but it was right around here from when I found that Iron Valley and then caught it. Alright. I'll go ahead and start making my way back to the surface. Worst case scenario, like I said, I'll just find it off screen. Then that would mean there are 5 more Pokemon that we need to complete the Pokedex. And one of them just happens to be found out by the Paldean Oceans. But what about those other 4 Pokemon? We have not seen anything like it at all yet. But I will say that there is going to be something that we have seen before a few times, but we chose to do nothing about it yet. That's what's going to be changing in the next episode. There's that research station. There's a lot of iron bundles and hands out here. Whoa! Trevor, where did you come from? I don't want to fight you. Go away. Thank you. All right. Yeah, I'm not seeing one. Let's see here. Iron Moth right there. A couple of them. Oh, there it is! There it is! Yes! Oh! You have your booster energy going! Okay. This is gonna take some serious concentration on this one. Ah! Crud! Ha! Joke's on you! I resist that. Oof. Yes, I can go switch it up for this because it's a rock type. It should be able to tank the hit. The only thing I'm really worried about is... Oh, never mind. That could help. Ow. Alright, don't knock it out. Oh. Okay. I have nothing to worry about. Yay! Except for that. Ow. Okay. Go for another torch song. Because like heck, I'm gonna use that flamethrower. Uh-oh. Okay, that's actually a little bit of a problem. Alright. Uh-oh. Okay. Sandstorm has subsided. That's good. Alright, let's try another one. Crud! I really don't want to use any of the balls that I've gotten from the Pokedex, because I think you can only get it through that. Yay! Yes, 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 Mecha Godzilla. You're really intimidating us right now. Alright, here we go. Oh, come on! Great Ball? It shook it with the Great Ball twice. I can't risk it using any moves with Iron Treads. He's a physical user. At least I know that its special defense is now pretty much at maximum capacity at this point. Go for a netball. Of all the things I'm now having an issue with, is this. Critical catch! Yes! And that is it! That is all the Paradox Pokemon that I've obtained! Don't worry, I also got some from Scarlet, so I had a little bit of a help elsewhere, but we'll get into that later. So, all I'm going to say right now is, neat. So I think for the last thing that we'll do for this episode is look for that one last Pokemon that has been eluding me for so long. And then we'll have just 4 more Pokemon to complete the Pokedex. But we'll be getting into each and one of those almost individually. If that makes any sense. So, the one in question that I'm looking for is you. We can find these out in the eastern in the east and in the west seas of Paldea. Should be easy to find, right? Well, let's head on to the ocean and check it out. Whee! Okay. If you hold on the ZL button, it'll make it finding a Pokemon a little bit easier before you go up against them. We are now in the West Paldean Sea. Let's see. Here's a shoulder. I guess these things are a little bit more harder to find. Oh, hi, Pelipper. Here's a Magikarp. Luminian. Affinian. Here's a shoulder. There is no Finison. There it is! This will be an easy catch. And I don't even have to use a fishing rod for this. Okay! Come to me! And now just leaves us with 4 more Pokemon for us to find. Never have I thought that this Brushix, or how you pronounce it, would end up being the last normal Pokemon that we will find. So, why don't we head back into our place, and then we'll end things off from right here. So, next time, we're gonna do a little bit of some exploring around in the south of Paldean, well, in the south part of Paldea. Explore a new location and that has been open to us from the very beginning, but I was saving it for this particular point. See you guys then!